Oh, welcome back, Broncos country. I'm Bree Maestas here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. Guys, how are you?
Bree, I'm doing fantastic. I am excited to see your face here on this podcast again. It was only 2 episodes, but it felt like a year. It felt for like forever. And I'm happy to have you back on this podcast hosting. I think the people missed you. You know, like my hosting abilities, they're getting better, but they're not there yet. They're not there yet. If you catch the first part of last episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All of you do. So, yes, I'm excited to have Bree back, and I'm excited to get back in the podcast. Zach, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Sorry, my phone was stealing my Bluetooth there for a minute. I don't know if my audio messed up for everyone else, so I'm sorry if it did. I'm doing great. Excited to be here. We haven't had the trio together in, I think, 2 weeks now, which is definitely the longest we've been apart since we've got like Chris Bosh injuries. It's like already the later stages of the Heatles.
But I was taking a rest period before the All-Star game. That's all I was doing.
I'm more Chris Bosh. You're D Wade. Joey's the Iron Man, I think.
I'm LeBron.
At least I'm not Derrick Rose and I keep blowing out my knee. All jokes aside, guys, throw up a 3 for me and tell me how you do yours. Whoa. Okay. All right.
Wait, is there other ways to do people do this?
Like that? Yeah. Or have you ever seen
in basketball, I hit a 3, you're doing one of these. You know what I mean?
Have you ever seen this one?
I've never seen that one.
It's like little T-Rex hands.
Which is a
perfect segue into our first question of the night. In case you didn't know, we're live. So if you want to get your questions and comments highlighted and discussed here right on Let's Talk Broncos, go on over to the Mile High Sports YouTube or Facebook page. Cal was the first one in. He gets his question read first. If a perfectly preserved skeleton of a T-Rex was somehow discovered directly beneath Mile High Stadium, would you forego an entire full season of home games to have it excavated? I would be a part of the excavation crew because I think that would be fantastic. You can ship the Broncos to go play over, I think, on the CSU field. It's a nice stadium. I think you can make it happen just fine.
My take on this, no, screw that T-Rex. We're playing football. I'm sorry. That T-Rex is going to have to wait. We're not messing around with the T-Rex in football season. You know, we're just definitely not. We're 1,000% not doing that. I'm not going to accept any other answers from this football podcast. So go ahead, guys. What do you think?
Well, we're not saying they're not playing the games. They're just losing their home games. It'd be like when the Saints had to play in. Where did they play? Was it San Antonio? Mm-hmm. Where does anyone remember where they played? It was San Antonio. I know the Hornets played in Oklahoma City during Hurricane Katrina. It'd just be like that. You know what? If it's the Russell Wilson, I could see multiple arguments for them foregoing the home games. But for me, like, there has to be some sort of payoff. There has to be something. I guess it's the perfectly preserved aspect that'd be the big breakthrough.
This is ridiculous. I'm not sacrificing one win for that T-Rex, not one.
You don't know what kind of T-Rex is underneath
Joey,
there.
What if? And here's the other thing. What if they cut Russell Wilson? Then I'm all for it. Then, like, okay, we're blowing it up. Let's try and lose as many games as possible. Let's pick early. Let's get Caleb Williams. Another potential argument for it, if people want to see the viability of like a team in London, I bet one of the first cities that the NFL would consider, it would be weird for the AFC West. They'd have to do something with the schedule. But the NFL would be financially motivated to be like, okay, what happens if we give a team 9 London home games or 8 London home games? Let's see what happens. I think that would be an interesting aspect of this all. And I don't know. I'm not a selfish person, unlike Joey, so I'd be okay with like putting scientific discovery first.
I mean, science is important. No, go ahead. Argue about the T-Rex.
This is ridiculous that T-Rex has been sitting under there for thousands of years. Was a football season. Wait a football season. Like it can
when are you going to get it out? So you're going to wait until the end of the season?
Yes.
But it's going to take longer because then you'd have to like tear down the stadium.
Then it is what it is. I don't.
It.
Oh, if it comes down to tearing down the stadium or not, that T-Rex is just going to be under there. I'm sorry. Until we get a new stadium, that T-Rex is under there. And then if it's during
it'd be a great excuse for the Waltons' new stadium.
Oh, now we know the conspiracy theory. You got to put on your tinfoil hats because they're going to see a T-Rex skeleton. But Frankie Abbott wants to know over on YouTube, does the T-Rex fetch any draft capital in a trade? Maybe.
No, that's the other. Like it literally has no. And I see where Frankie's coming from with this. What he's pretty much saying is screw that T-Rex. He's in the same boat as me. Shout out to Frankie. But my take on this is that this is the issue. Is no, it wouldn't. Like it wouldn't at all. Maybe if the Broncos got a couple firsts, we could forego the home games for 1 year.
To what, the 33rd team in the NFL, the new team they're going to shove in somewhere in Texas and call it the Raptors? You got to think about who's trading for a team. I want a full-size T-Rex skeleton, but I don't have any trade capital.
I'll say this. We have had an LTB debate, not on the show, about what animals would be best at football. T-Rex, if you could reanimate it, a la Jurassic Park. Like how perfectly preserved is this thing? That thing would be a monster on the field.
It doesn't have
that's 6 minutes of T-Rex talk to him.
It doesn't have any arms. How would it be good at football?
Neither does an elephant.
Guys, go to a museum. This is ridiculous. We're gonna stay on the football over there. Go do something else. Go look at the dinosaur skeletons elsewhere. If the Broncos built their stadium on that, it is what it is. I'm sorry that T-Rex is gonna have to wait.
Wow.
What if it's cursing the franchise, Joey?
We're building a new stadium and we're playing on that stadium until the new one's built.
It's been under there for a long time.
Exactly. What's another? It could wait 100 years. It's been down there for thousands. It could wait
millions, more than thousands,
to billions. All of that.
Coop came into the chat. AQ Shipley had short arms and he won a Super Bowl, Brie, all caps.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Brie,
all right, guys, we're going to get into it. I have short arms. I'm telling you, I can't really catch the ball that well. I got tiny hands, big old head. I am the T-Rex. A bewitched dinosaur. Yes, Cal. Cal, thank you for that question. Get us all nice and warmed up as we jump into the rest of our mailbag questions. Got a ton of responses over on Twitter. If you'd also like to get some questions in during at any point in the week, you got to join our Discord. It's a lot of fun over there. You get to talk Broncos and other NFL and general news and cuisine combos over with the bunch of us. This question comes from Joey. Joey Richards asks, does how long it's taken to get a defensive coordinator concern you? Guys, we got news today. Matt Patricia is now in the running. There have been some strong feelings associated with this name in general. Obviously, best known to me as a coordinator over with the New England Patriots. I'm a little on the fence here with this direction. We've had a lot of strong words and statements over on Twitter going around about how Broncos country feels about Matt Patricia being in the running for the defensive coordinator. Sean Payton has now gone through Sean Desai, Vance Joseph, a potential of Vic Fangio, but not really, Rex Ryan, and now Matt Patricia. I'm missing a name. Who am I missing?
For defensive
Chris Richard.
Chris Richard, thank you. So there's been a lot of names floating around. How does Matt Patricia make you feel?
I don't know. I feel mixed about it. Like the last time we saw him as a defensive coordinator, he was a great defensive coordinator. Like the last time we saw him as a defensive coordinator, he was helping that was Brian Flores. What am I talking about? But he was doing a great job with that Patriots defense. Nonetheless, I do think, we then saw him run the Detroit Lions defense into the ground and oversee a player mutiny. And then he was a terrible offensive coordinator. I don't know if I blame him so much for the offensive coordinator thing. That might be more Bill Belichick's fault. He probably shouldn't have been even put in that position, but I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know if I want like a Patriots guy, but and I'm not a big Matt Patricia guy, but it's also hard for me to deny that he was more recently a very good defensive coordinator than like Rex Ryan was, or some of the other candidates.
Yeah, but I mean, like when you have literally almost every single player that's ever played for him tell you that he's bad, like that's something that I think should be highlighted. Like for all the stuff we hear about Fangio, that's kind of on the timeline, whatever. The stuff that we hear about Matt Patricia and that Lions, I mean, they had players on ESPN live and in person talking about how bad and how much they hated Matt Patricia. I don't like it. I would not like it for multiple reasons. I think it would be a massive scheme change for the Broncos, along with the coach that doesn't players really don't like him. Most recently, he was an offensive coordinator, and then before that, he was a Lions head coach, and he was a bad one. I don't see it. I don't like it. I think this is literally my least favorite defensive coordinator the Broncos have interviewed. But I would be highly disappointed if they hired Matt Patricia.
So 6 days out from the NFL Combine, is it worrisome to you that a decision has not been made for that coordinator position? Do you think Sean Payton is taking his time for a specific reason? Joey, earlier today, you had a really good point about maybe there's a method to his madness here, getting a really wide tooth comb and going through all types of personalities for coordinator. Do you feel like this is going to impact the ability to the Denver Broncos to actively scout correctly for both sides of the ball?
I mean, to an extent, yes, 1000%. Like for all the player rankings and stuff people see online, like, oh, these are my top 10 cornerbacks. All of them would fall differently depending on scheme. That's just a fact. Some guys fit better schemes than others, right? You really just can't rank all the guys. Here's my top 10. It doesn't really make sense in the grand scheme of things because they all fit different things differently. So if you were to say, here's my top 10 quarterbacks in the Vic Fangio defense. Here's my top 10 quarterbacks in the Rex Ryan defense. And it goes on and on. Like it changes, right? So I do think it's concerning to a bit because I don't think these scouts know exactly what they're scouting for, which is worrisome. Is it a huge deal? It's not massive. It isn't massive. I think, these are trained professionals. They could figure this out, especially if the Broncos hire the right guy at defensive coordinator. They should be able to do it. But is it a little bit? Yeah, 1000%. It is.
Yeah, I just think, like, to your point, Joey, yes, it's a bit of an obstacle, but I also think these scouts have been operating under the impression that like it's a new defense or just a new coaching staff in general for a couple months now. So I think, you're watching these cornerbacks like, okay, taking notes on would they be good in this scheme or that scheme, looking at defensive ends more, the 5 technique or 3 technique. Like I think those things are probably being taken care of as the process. Maybe I'm too optimistic about the Broncos, but I think that can be taken care of right now, especially like George Payton. I think he's had some misfires. I do think he's a smart guy. I imagine that's what he'd be doing. I don't think he'd be that ignorant. And so, yeah, I don't know. It'll be a problem in terms of the coaches are definitely part of the evaluation process and part of the conversation in terms of, I want this in my player. I want a guy who does this like really nitty gritty granular stuff, probably more technical, about what kind of press or like, do you want him on top of the guy in cover 3 or whatever? So I don't know, like that. I think you'll be at a little disadvantage with, but you've got time to make up. I don't think it's the end of the world. I did love Cal's tank comment about Sean Payton's trying to sell a tank, and maybe that's why they're having a hard time, because that makes sense to me. It's been taking them a while to fill this thing, and I think it's either indecisiveness, which is a little odd because Sean Payton's had a full year to think about this and who he might want to bring in as a DC, but maybe Fangio not working out through his plans totally to the wind. But I don't know. It's weird to me that it is taking this long. And I wonder if maybe it is, he's trying to tell Sean Desai, who's interested in furthering his own career and maybe being a head coach one day. He's trying to tell Sean Desai that, the next 2-3 years of the Broncos might be a little lean, and that
I
might
hate
not
it.
be appealing for a guy who wants to ranks.
I don't like it whatsoever. Dal over on YouTube says, I feel like this offseason is approaching Bill Belichick levels of secrecy. I wouldn't be surprised if they never announce an official hire and just wait until they update the week 1 staff directory. This feels a lot like listing Russell Wilson as questionable up until it's a game time decision. I think there's a smart way to do things. I am a fan of Bill Belichick, but I don't know if I want the same level of secrecy for the Denver Broncos. It makes me just a little bit anxious about what is to come. Frankie Abbott makes also another wonderful point over on YouTube about having an issue if they end up sacking a guy like Christian Parker after this delayed process, because it does have a trickle effect. You're not able to retain a couple of key pieces that are still on staff until you name a defensive coordinator. Takes away the chance of him getting a promotion as well. I agree. Don't love it. I pretty much hate it. So let's go into the DC importance question that Denny asked for teams that have head coaches that call defensive or offensive plays. What value do you place on the coordinator of their side of the ball? For example, Sean Payton as an OC or Vic Fangio DC when he was a head coach. This is an interesting concept, right? Because Sean Payton obviously is going to have a hand on the entirety of the team. He's going to have to answer for both sides of the ball, but he is going to be calling plays. Tell me a little bit about the impact of having a coach on either side of the ball. And now that we're going offensive again, if you could even say that after Nathaniel Hackett, but what kind of a mark does this leave for the team, I guess, if Sean Payton is going to be heading the offense?
I really think, Bree, that it's team to team. I think it's team to team, and I'm not exactly sure with Sean Payton. I should do more research on this, honestly. It's an interesting topic. Because
he's had the same guy.
What was that?
He had the same guy his whole time in New Orleans.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
Who's still there running the offense
now? It depends how much influence that one guy has on the head coach. That's what it depends on. So it's team to team, right? Because while they're not that's really what it depends on. If I'm being honest, that's what it does. Like, if this guy, if he puts somebody in place that can influence him, you want it to be influenced in a good way. I'm just not so sure that a Sean Payton will be influenced by whoever he brings in an offensive coordinator. I really don't. I don't see it happening with the Broncos being a huge deal. I think offensive line coach is probably like a lot more important than offensive coordinator for the Broncos, for example. For other teams, it could be different, though. I'm not exactly sure. It's just how much power this guy has. And that will be team-to-team thing, I believe.
Yeah, it's the lesson of the Nathaniel Hackett era. Like, if you're like for a Shane Steichen or a D'Amico Ryans or a Jonathan Gannon, I think it's important. I want them to have support in that room. Look at Mike Kafka and the support he provided Brian Daboll this season. I think that was a huge reason as to why Brian Daboll was so successful. Now, if we're talking about a Sean Payton, we're talking about an Andy Reid, we're talking about a Vic Fangio, I'm going to be a lot less concerned about it. Like, I don't think Ed Donatel was doing a whole lot on the defense. Now, to be fair, some of that was because Vic Fangio wasn't doing a lot of the head coach stuff, but I don't think like Ed Donatel was all that important.
I'm just a little bit concerned that if you don't get the right guy in there as defensive coordinator, that you're letting go of a very key piece. We had this conversation as the head coaching conversation was really flaring up, is whether or not we anticipate the defense taking a step back, having a little bit of regression, and then we're coming forward expecting Sean Payton obviously to have a hand in everything, but to be more offensively focused, working with Russell Wilson. So my whole thing is, if you aren't putting in a really strong defensive coordinator, if you're bringing in Rex Ryan, who hasn't done it for a while, or if you're bringing in somebody like Matt Patricia, who has struggles with rosters, then you're kind of setting yourself up for the inevitable. A balancing back to like middle grade of the NFL and a top 15 defense isn't the worst thing that could happen, but it's something I wouldn't want to see with this talented of a roster. Joey.
Yeah, Brian, to your point there, I just want to highlight, Sean Desai isn't necessarily this guy, but the Broncos have interviewed a lot of former head coaches as defensive coordinators. So if you're looking for somebody to run one side of the ball, like you said, Bree, it would make sense to hire a guy that has been a former head coach and can run a team on that side of the ball. I'm thinking Brian Flores was a guy the Broncos brought in. Vic Fangio was a guy the Broncos brought in. Matt Patricia, Rex Ryan. These are all guys that have head coached an entire team, not just a defense. I do anticipate that the majority of Sean Payton's mind will be going to that offense. So I think that's a smart process there.
Yeah, I just like you said, it would suck to see the defense regress, but I think it's kind of inevitable. It was the lesson of the 2015 defense. And I just, it's all right if the offense is good. If Sean Payton can figure the offense out, you can live with the 15th best defense in the league. Like there was a real argument.
Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert twice a year.
Absolutely. It's the way of the modern NFL. I don't think you can sustain a top 5 defense year over year, top 10 defense year over year. If your offense can go toe to toe with those guys, and it doesn't mean like being better than Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes is the NFL's Michael Jordan. I don't think you're going to top it, unfortunately. But if you can just hang in there offensively, be an 8 out of 10 to Patrick Mahomes' 10 out of 10, and have your defense be good, you'll be fine. I think there's something to be said about not having elite defense, but having a very opportunistic defense. If you feel confident your offense can score 25 points a game, which isn't a very high bar, but is also a place the Broncos haven't been in 8 years now, or 7. Yeah, 8. Forever. 8. 8.5, really. You can play a different brand of defense where it's not, we can't allow points this drive. You can be more aggressive and take more shots for big plays, for turnovers, for game swinging, or just explosive defensive plays, the types of defensive plays that swing ball games. I think it's what the Chiefs defense has been great at. Year after year, they're not a very good defense, but they come up with sacks at a very high rate. They had the second most sacks in the NFL this season, and they consistently have a lot of takeaways too. They're a very opportunistic defense.
That's expecting that your offense is going to function at the same rate that the Kansas City Chiefs offense is going to be. I don't even think the Broncos are going to even touch their floor.
That's an extreme example, but I think it's replicable without having a Chiefs level offense for sure, because it's all about ending drives now. It's not about and like creating field possession, creating points. It's not about, like, the Broncos have had to play like no other team in the league. Like every team, this is the highest scoring period in NFL history. And outside of like the Jets and Giants, like no one even compares to the anemia the Broncos have experienced on offense. I think we don't even understand how, I think, kind of unimportant defense is in the modern NFL. Like it's not totally unimportant. I think it's pretty unimportant. I think most teams are pretty, and you can, I think, see this in the Super Bowl champions. It's fine to be mediocre on defense. You've got to be really good on offense. If you can pair those two up and have an elite defense and an elite offense, that's when we're talking about something truly special, like what the Eagles just had.
I think my only issue with that, Zach, and I agree to an extent, but also because I like the defense a whole lot more, that I'm a little bit offended by the notion, but I think I can walk myself up and meet you at a midpoint there. But unfortunately, that's asking the Denver Broncos to function as an elite offense, which I don't think is going to happen in 2023, let alone 2024. There's a lot of questions and holes and issues there that you need the defense to carry your drives. But I also think it's kind of crazy to just dismiss defenses entirely when the scope has been in the ability to control and go against some very mobile quarterbacks, and also quarterbacks who just know how to sling it down the field. So I don't know if I'm just mishearing it, and so we can talk about that later as well, because I don't want to get too in the weeds of it. Joey, I'll let you get to your point. Do you want to move on to the next question?
Can I rephrase myself really quick? Just I think there's an importance in having the like a top 4 defense or whatever. But there's so few difference-making defenses in the league every year, and it's so hard to cultivate because you're relying on having a good play caller and coach, and if you have a good one, they're going to get poached with very high likelihood. And then you need like 15 quality players to account for injury, to account for different packages. It's just hard to do. Like the Eagles did it this year, but it's difficult to do. Offense is sustainable because if you have quarterback, you have offensive play caller, you've got like weapon, like at that point you can figure it out. You need some help on the offensive line. You need some weapons or a lot of one or the other. Like there are other components that are necessary, but offense is a lot more sustainable. And when you look at the champion, like defense wins championships is an outdated motto, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not that defense doesn't matter or anything. It's just, it makes sense to build around offense to me. And like, I think Rex Ryan, like his style of defense, where it's like kind of hyper aggressive, very, again, opportunistic, explosive, looking to create the big plays on defense is ideal for the modern NFL, because with current rules and whatnot, it's hard for the defense to impact games. Like the Fangio thing is kind of like, it's about, let's just try and limit the offense. It's not exerting the defense's will on them. It's just trying to like kind of contain them. I think there's something to be said for just, let's take a lot of swings and let's just try and impact this game however we can. And you'll get gashed sometimes, but you'll also gash your opponent.
Joey.
Yeah, no, I think, Zach, you corrected that exactly what I was going to say. I think that it's not that defenses are any less important than that what it was. I think that it's just harder to replicate. I think it's really hard to replicate, matter of fact. Because offense, really, the Kansas City Chiefs offense is so good every year because of one player. And they're going to continue to be really good because of one player. Patrick Mahomes is the Michael Jordan. Zach said it earlier. If you get not just one crack at a really good team that can then go win a Super Bowl, you have then now a decade of chances to go win a Super Bowl. With a really good defense, that probably lasts 1 year, maybe 2, but that's what it does. You just get less cracks at it. And then I think that's kind of the reason why it's so hard. You need, on defense, you need that entire team to be good. You need health on your side. You can't have the injuries to a bunch of good players. You need everything. Whereas Mahomes can mask a lot of what's going on offense and make it good. Of course, team sport, but hey, the Chiefs just traded Tyreek Hill, who, I mean, I projected the Chiefs to take a little bit of a drop. They didn't. They were doing good. You know, Mahomes and these elite quarterbacks will get you multiple shots at an elite unit, which will give you a shot at the Super Bowl more than one time.
Frankie is banned from LTB chat. He can come back on Thursdays for the Let's Talk Draft show. Patrick, I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to put it up here, and you guys can all enjoy that. Silly Bucks fans. All right, got to move on to the next question, which is also defensive coordinator. What do you think? D Bronx asks, what do you think the team is looking at as far as scheme goes at a diverse DC candidate pool for defense that had proven success in certain defenses? I'm having a hard time reading that. Zach, can you?
What I think he's asking is, what do you think of the team looking at a bunch of defensive coordinator candidates that are coming from different schematic trees? It's not just a bunch of Fangio guys. It's not just a bunch of Belichick guys.
Different personalities,
or a bunch of Pete Carroll guys. Yeah, and different personalities. It's a smattering of schemes and personalities and backgrounds and ages. And I think that's what he's asking about.
What do I make of that is an interesting thing. I'm not sure what I exactly make of that, other than that Sean Payton has an open mind and he's not stuck on one type of defense, right? Or one type of coach. That's really the only thing I can really pull out of that, I guess. I wonder do you think it's a Sean Desai thing that he doesn't want to become a Bronco, or do you think it's a Broncos thing that he doesn't want to be a defensive coordinator? Just real quick.
That's speculation. I have no idea.
I have no idea. I don't even know if he's the guy they'd offer. Like, I think they're very interested in Rex Ryan. Like, I just don't have a good read on it.
I'm just trying to find a line, because I wonder if it is like experience at defensive coordinator or head coach experience. Like, if there is a similarity I can find between some of those guys, that is what it is, other than Sean Desai.
I don't think there's a super clear one. Like Nick Rawlis, who we haven't mentioned at all, but Nick Rawlis was also in this group. Who's
Did they
like
interview him though?
yeah, I believe so.
I
He
just
was
read that they were interested.
maybe it didn't work out because Gannon got the job, but at the very least, he was going to be interviewed if he didn't have the connection with Gannon, I assume. So that's like the epitome of inexperience. So I don't think there's a clear angle on this. I think Sean Payton's probably just looking at the people that interest him most for the job. And I think it's good they're going scheme diverse. I think that shows that you're maybe not beholden to a certain defensive philosophy. And that's good if you're worried about maybe this person being poached or not being around or whatever, to not be totally tied to their way of thinking, to have the flexibility to go elsewhere in the future and whatnot. So I don't know. It's good. I don't think narrowing your scope is ever going to benefit you. So I'm for them casting a wide net. And I don't think although I think Simmons might be best suited for this system, or like Baron Browning might be better suited as like a 3-4 edge. I don't think it's that big of a deal with the Broncos personnel. I think they'll be okay with these schemes. So I think it's generally.
Oh, I thought I froze, and Joey was being really, really still, so I couldn't tell for sure. Jolene over on Twitter asks, will the Broncos pull off a trade in the offseason? How many picks do you think Peyton will have for the draft? I think that there's a couple of names, and we want to talk a little bit about the idea of a trade block, right? Like there's not actually a table in which they lay out the names and they, drop the guillotine. Yeah, it's not Madden. There's definitely not something that's actively going on where they've got them all lined up and all their lockers are in jeopardy here, but there are some names and there's going to be a lot of calls for certain players. It's just whether or not they reach their correct supply and demand and make a deal happen. Although we do know of potentially one name out there that would be up for grabs, that being Garrett Bowles. Guys, do you think a trade happens this offseason? We've been tiptoeing around it for a little bit here. Throughout the season, there was a lot of talk about maybe possibly Jerry Jeudy. What would you give, or what would you receive? What would you be okay with receiving in order to let a talent like that go? Now that he's shown the growth that he has exponentially, you'd be worried about even being able to make up the ground there that he has done in his couple of seasons here with the Denver Broncos. So tell me, are there any other players out there you think that could garner some draft picks for George Payton or the Broncos in general?
Yes, I'm curious if any of them, Bree, will bring back the return to make it worth it. That's what I am curious about. Like you mentioned Jerry Jeudy. I don't see a team offering enough to make it worth it to me. Cortland Sutton, I could see traded, possibly. I could. I think Zach has mentioned there's some serious salary cap implications there.
I was wrong in the past.
You were wrong in the past? Okay.
Yeah.
If they do trade him. So I guess that one would make sense. I mean, that one would make sense. What does he get, though? Probably not a ton. I wouldn't imagine a ton there for Cortland Sutton. Garrett Bowles, another guy. I don't imagine a ton. So how many more picks do you have? I would say 1 to 2 more picks. Are they going to be top, 75 picks? Probably not.
No.
That's what I would say. Anyone more worth that the Broncos should keep.
Yeah, I'm with you. They need to start cultivating young spots of talent. It's like when the Bears traded Roquan Smith. Like, I get you're tearing this, and that's a little different because his contract was coming up and he wanted a market-setting deal at linebacker. But sometimes it's like, these are the guys you're trying to find with those draft picks. Like young, no injury history, great character, like awesome at his position. Like that's what you want with those draft picks. You've already got the I don't know, private island. No need to opt for the mystery box instead. So I don't know. I think as for how many picks the Broncos will have in the draft, I think they have 6 right now. They're not projected to have any comp picks added to that. I bet via trades they end up with like 8 or so. That feels right. I bet they they stack a few extra. That either by maneuvering on the draft or by trading like a Cortland Sutton or a Garrett Bowles. I don't know if you'll get a nice haul, to Joey's point, for that, but I think the Broncos might be at the point with like a Garrett Bowles in particular where the haul's not great, but it just makes sense for them. And I could see them very easily regretting that because the team's going to be taking a gamble on, Garrett Bowles' upside. It's hard to find tackles in the market. All the arguments for why the Broncos should keep Garrett Bowles, but they're looking down the barrel of an $18 million cap hit. The fact that if he recovers, how we've seen offensive linemen recover recently from fractured legs, he's probably looking at a midseason return at age 31 off a fractured leg, having already showed signs of decline. You might not get good Garrett Bowles again until like 2024 at the earliest. And at that point, you get 1 year of him and it's at like 24 million. He's 32. Tackles have been aging a lot better recently, but that is very dicey. So I could very easily see the Broncos trading Bowles just to get something. If they're just like, we think Calvin Anderson's going to be starting the whole season for us anyways at left tackle, let's just get a 5th round pick and get this off our books. I think fans would be justifiably upset about that, but I could totally see the Broncos doing it.
I could see it happening too. I don't run the team. It seems a little bit crazy to get rid of one of your most steadfast offensive line pieces when it's been faltering as much as it has been. You need the continuity there in order to bring younger guys up, because that is what they're going to have to do at this point. They're going to have to rely on a lot of current pieces in place. It's not like you can just pluck them off of trees. I'm sure we will have lots to discuss there, but what we can be in charge of is Zach asked whether or not you would be tasked with fixing the Pro Bowl. If the NFL puts you in charge, what would be your first change? I'd get rid of it entirely.
I like it.
Zach,
There's a waste of time. Let them have vacation. Let them go do something fun.
I agree.
I think,
by the way.
Okay, see, I have the solution. I asked this question because I think I actually have the solution. You tear up the Pro Bowl as we know it now. You don't make it about the league. You stop how it's currently framed. Because how it's currently framed, it feels like a very kind of silly, like corporate fan-based event. And of course, players don't want part in it. Of course, that's why you're having to spotlight Tyler Huntley, who doubled his regular season touchdown total in the Pro Bowl. Like, this is a nightmare. I think the number one problem the Pro Bowl has to address is like getting some players that people care about there. And making it a little more interesting for the viewer. And I think that it involves making it all about the players. Ask them, where do you want to have it? Because rotating it from like Orlando, which is a horrible city, to a bunch of other, and my family's in that area. I've gone there plenty. My family lives in Tampa. It's not great either.
No,
I've been up to Orlando, and Orlando's rough. Okay. Like, I don't think players are like, let's say that players aren't like, oh my God, I got to get out to Orlando, like bring it back to Hawaii, bring it to Miami. Okay. Now we're talking. Now you might see some players wanting to show up. Also, goodbye, Florida. Move the NFL honors to that weekend. Move when you announce the Hall of Fame class to that weekend and have it be part of the whole festivities. Also, tear up a lot of the events. A lot of the events are garbage. I don't even know if we keep the football game in this format because, again, it's all about like player celebration. If they want to do that, go ahead. But that's my dad who lives in Florida. Dad, I love you, but like, speak on Orlando. Are you telling me I'm wrong on Orlando? Like, let's be honest in a public forum for a minute. Am I wrong on Orlando? To keep it up, and I'm not getting my birthday tattoo. Yeah, that's the Florida heritage talking. So I'd throw out all the games and have some better competitions. If you can start getting the good players there, and this would be another way to maybe motivate that, bring back like strongest arm, like how they used to have the who can throw the ball the farthest competitions, most accurate, like they already have the precision passing one, have fastest player in the NFL, and call it these things like most accurate quarterback with the strongest arm, whatever, and have a championship belt that gets rotated, almost like the Stanley Cup, where you get your name inscribed on it, but then it gets rotated to the next guy the next year to incentivize people coming back, trying to defend their title, whatever, adds an additional narrative, adds an additional thing for people to argue about in contract negotiations. I was the second fastest guy in the Pro Bowl, or one of the top 3 fastest people at the Pro Bowl each of the last 3-4 years.
I just don't understand.
I think there's enough players that are vain enough to know about it. It'd make it a much better event.
I don't understand what the idea. Coop said he wanted to throw it right in the middle of the season, and my whole thing with that is you want to avoid as many injuries as possible. Now, thankfully, nobody got injured this last Pro Bowl, but the idea that you could have maybe a slippery field or something like that, I don't want to throw it in the middle. I don't want to throw it at the end. I just feel like you're lessening the ability for these elite athletes to wear their bodies out, and even if it is a skills competition, I could understand that. But were that many people tuning in, or is it just fodder?
That's why you got to make it better.
For the Super Bowl,
and make it a thing the players want to do. I'm not, rounding them up and dragging them.
Want to do that?
No, because they want to go vacation with their family. That's what they would rather.
But that's why they used to go to the Pro Bowl. That's why they used to go to the Pro Bowl, because it was a paid vacation. I think part of the reason it's suffered in recent years is because they're like, let's go to Vegas. I think Vegas is fun. It's not the family destination, like family vacation destination hotspot that Hawaii was. Like, bring it back to Hawaii, and you're going to get some more players that want to bring their families on a all expenses paid vacation.
Just give the players a little money when they get voted in the Pro Bowl. Go let them go vacation with their family. Maybe give them like a little trophy, like a little Pro Bowl thing, and keep it pushing. I don't care about the strongest arm. I don't care about who lifts the most weights. I don't care. I'm still not watching. I'm still not. There's nothing that's going to fix it. There's absolutely nothing other than if they treated it like a normal game, which would be super unreasonable of them. It would be like, so there's nothing. There's nothing.
But that's not about, I don't know, you're never going to have an all-star game. And I think that's kind of the point of this. Like, all-star games are dying. Look at every other sport. So what's the new format that could work? And I think like an NFL Olympics thing that's low strain on terms of like hurting the athletes, still honors them. Again, you make it all about the players and honoring how great the players are. You add the NFL honors to that weekend. You probably add some other stuff. I would interview players about this. Like, what do you want the Pro Bowl to look like? Make it player and call it like the NFL All-Star Players Weekend. Like, call it that or something. Have the players be front and center. Make it something they want to come to. Because I agree. Right now, it's something no one wants to watch. No one cares about it. So I think you have to try something radically different. And I also think you need to start bringing in the players that people care about.
But why do we even care? I'm not even gonna.
Okay, well,
I agree. If you could,
I didn't have a solution.
I just doubt the fact that you can. That's my only thing.
Yeah, I appreciate Zach giving a really good pitch there, but you're not Russell Wilson, and I don't think you're going to convince Roger Goodell to change the entirety of the format of the Pro Bowl.
Not our Russ.
Christ. Frankie asks, what should Denver's primary color be for the next uniforms? Light blue, dark blue, or orange? And anybody who says orange, we're not friends. Unfollow me on Twitter. Do not talk to me. Do not at me. Do not discuss anything with me. And that goes for the both of you, because if either of you choose blue, we've got issues. Orange and
never
blue.
Mind.
You just win it orange and blue.
It's orange.
Those are the two options.
So I'm saying orange goes first. When you reference the Broncos, it's orange and blue. Orange is the primary color.
Yeah, I want the. I'll be real. I see him in the comments right now. I'll give him some love. I want the Boggins edit. I don't think it's a unique design. No disrespect, Boggins. I feel like I've seen kind of the same modernized take on the old like Broncos look with a little more shoulder stripings and whatnot. Everyone knows what it should look like. That's what it should look like. Is there a dissenting 20% like breed that enjoys being contrarian? 100%. 100% there's a contrarian portion that will be represented by Bree here. But I think we all know what we want, and I think Damani Leach knows too, thankfully.
So Bree,
sorry, Bree, I love you. I'm just talking shit.
I do not think the Broncos' primary color should be orange. I think it should be an accent on the jersey. Orange is not a good color on anything. I don't care. It's blue with accents of orange. And I would prefer lighter on both the orange and blue. I like the older Broncos colors more than I like the new Broncos colors. Everyone says orange because the stadium, the orange stands out. But when did we start making that the priority over how the uniforms actually look?
I don't think you're actually
watch
in this
them
case.
play in cool uniforms and then watch them wear cool uniforms.
You haven't even thought about this. You're literally just you're making it up as you go from the seat of your pants. There's no way that you actually think that the way that it looks in the stadium has nothing to do with the importance of the jersey.
Wait. So the
fandom doesn't? Okay.
In the stadium,
the fandom matters
than actually how the jersey looks.
And what, the Broncos are going to be another like powder blue team? I don't need it. They can have a powder blue alternate. I'm for it, but we know, like, what would the light blue jersey look like? I guess. What does that look like? Or do you want it to stay dark blue, or go back to navy?
The lighter blue, like I think Boggins graphics were the lighter blue.
Is that a
really?
Egg?
Yeah, I thought those were orange. Am I stupid?
No, here's the thing.
They have the light blue helmet, but they've got the orange body, kind of like the old ones, I thought.
So he's done multiples, right? If you want to go check that out, go see Mr. Boggins on Twitter. Mr. Boggins, you can drop your Twitter handle in the chat so people can find you. I'll highlight it for you. But I just don't like the cream. I don't like the muted colors. I think the bright colors are something that need to stay. I don't like the muted down milky pastel-y creamsicle-y. I don't like it. I think it's done with. Here's my thing, and I'll do my rant again because I normally do it every time we talk about the uniforms, is the retro motif is only missed because it's retro. Once you bring that back, it's no longer special and retro. Then it's current. So I just don't like the idea of going back to the old school color motif.
You could have made the same argument with the LA franchises. You could have made the same argument with the LA franchises. And one team went back to the old school thing, and one team decided to try and do something new. And the team that tried to do something new, I think
that's why I don't think New Jersey's are that big of a deal. Like,
and the remodel looks amazing. The Chargers are sweet. The Chargers, I think, prove. And then the Bucks. Look at the Bucks too. Like, I don't think the moment they brought back the clear best jersey in franchise history, it immediately didn't become the best jersey in franchise history. I think everyone was like, yep, this looks great.
I will, to back up Bree's point, though, how long, like, because trends change. So how long will that retro look stay cool? I guess we'll have to, past the time we will tell. Right now, that's sick. That's the way I would want to go. 10 years down the line, I don't know if we'll be looking at, or 20 years down the line, I don't know if we'll be looking back at these uniforms that the Broncos are currently wearing like, oh, those were the best things ever. I
think there's going to be a margin of Broncos country that's going to be unhappy with whatever iteration comes down. Because I can tell you right now, I'm not a big fan of the navy, even though I traditionally wear all dark colors. That orange just to me signifies the team. So when you look at the swoop on the pants, that's old and outdated. That was brought to us in the 90s. It's time for something different. I just don't know why it has to be the color scheme. Although I do understand the idea and the notion that it's a little too Bears, but the thing is it's been the Denver Broncos for a really long time. If you go back to the old, the nostalgia no longer hits the same. It was a completely different era. People do a lot of this very afraid to move forward because they're always looking behind themselves, and I feel like that's what we're doing by bringing back the throwback or the old school color scheme. That's all I'm saying.
Respect.
I hear that.
And it's all subjective. Everyone has a different taste on what they like and that type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to your point about it immediately fading, I think that style of just like block numbers and shoulder striping the jerseys are always going to keep changing, to my dad's point. He's always been cynical about that, as have I. I think it's true. You're going to see them always rotating, but that style of that I think we've seen in kind of the mock-ups, that, kind of a modernized retro throwback, and I think you're making good points against it, Bree, but that style I think is what has been timeless in terms of football uniforms. Like, I don't think that's gone out of style. I think when everyone went into like some crazy 2000 stuff. Like you saw the Bengals do it. The Cardinals still have their ugly 2000s uniforms. The Broncos are in that club. The Falcons used to be in that club. Now the Falcons have another hyper modern jersey that doesn't look great. The old Bucks, like
I don't want to
alarm
look like
clock
a
one.
fantasy team with
That's
like
what I'm saying. I think the
neon
modern
letters.
ones don't look great. That's what, like, the Bucks ones were super modern. The Browns atrocities.
The Bucks
Like the
looked
Seahawks
amazing.
were the modern one. No, not the current Bucks. I mean, like these are their throwbacks that were great. I'm talking about their alarm clock deal. That was atrocious. The Seahawks were like the one hyper modern uniform redo that I think has worked out. Normally, I think they've worked out when they've kind of gone back to the past or simplified things. The Bengals, I guess, are a new look, but it's simple.
Zach, I have to push back a little bit, only because I was in school when people were looking at the future concepts, like everyone was wearing neon yellow, and then people on Instagram were posting two-tone cars. I don't think, like, there was a time when people were looking past that and were like, oh, I like this futuristic-esque look, and then now the old look is cooler. I don't know. I don't know if it's timeless. We will see. Only time will tell. And it's all subjective right now. I personally...
It's going to be subjective, you know what I mean?
...am not a fan of orange, but it is subjective. It's very subjective.
Dal said, I got distracted. I just completely spaced out for a second. Sorry, Joey. Dal says, we need an identity. If we keep changing unis, we will be as dumb as the NBA, and team colors mean nothing. Yeah, I do agree some form. I don't think that they necessarily have to keep changing them. I think that if the Broncos can find a longstanding culture change here with the organization, we won't be talking about uniforms. We will be talking about the Denver Broncos resurgence into the NFL, but right now I know they're going to change them. It's been over 20 years. It's time. I agree wholeheartedly. Mr. Boggins does great edits that seem to be getting some notifications over there on Twitter. So again, if you want to go check those out, please do. I don't want to talk about orange, blue, and white anymore though, but let's talk about some beer. Joey.
Weinsteffen. Who doesn't like a good Hefeweizen beer? Who would not like a good Hefeweizen beer?
Bad people.
Beer, especially right about now. This is the oldest brewery in the entire world. They're in Germany. My personal favorite beer of theirs, and I've tried every single one because it is my favorite brewery. The Fest beer is my favorite, but on a day-to-day basis, the Hefeweizen beer is awesome. You're going to get it's hazy, effervescent. It's 5.4% ABV. It's an amazing, amazing beer, crushable beer. I hope everybody goes and grabs one of these. Best beer in the world. By far, I think so. Have you guys got your hands on a Weinsteffen yet?
No, I haven't.
I don't drink beer.
I haven't done it yet.
That's the tough thing. We don't drink beer. We're tough people to market it. But I know, so you drink beer. Frankie drinks beer, and you both have been loving Weinsteffen. So I think that's the ringing endorsements we need. That and the fact that, again, they've been going since the 1600s. That's insane. Or even older than that.
I went and visited this brewery once upon a time, and it's still kind of set up back there. It's crazy from when they first started doing it. When they had like people doing this back in the day. It's the best beer in the world. It's the most historical beer. If you don't get your hands on one of these, you're not even a beer fan like Zach and Bree.
I like beer. I'm just not drinking it right now.
No, that's the thing. I think Joey's right.
I'll go and get a Weinsteffen because you know why? It's
hard. Because it's the best beer in the world.
Hard to spell, easy to drink.
Good. Okay, Cal says, what are the chances I enjoy this beer, Joey? Cal, if you don't enjoy the beer, I will send you your money back. Only the Cal, nobody else.
Oh, it's the Joey money back guarantee. Wow, this is
only the Cal. I have one customer, nobody else in here. Only the Cal. Cal, DM me if you don't like the beer. Find it. Just look up where can I find Weinsteffen in your Googles, and it'll come up.
In your Googles. It's everyone's favorite time of the night.
Grandpa Joey.
It's time for Joey's question of the day.
I thought we banned that.
I'm gonna.
Sometimes I just gotta click one I honestly just gotta click
It
one,
just
and
happens.
they're
That
still
one every
labeled.
time.
Well, I always click in the middle.
No, it's all
Here.
good. I'm just messing around with you. Okay, which Broncos player, or no, what number did this Broncos player wear? I'm going to start off hard and we're going to go easier. I'm only going to do one. So let's start off. Troy Fumagalli. Give me your guess.
84.
Bree?
I have no idea.
Okay,
80,
well,
83.
Zach's fucking ridiculous. You got it right off the bat. 84. 84 is correct. Troy Fumagalli wore 84. You know, the same as Shannon Sharp, Jacob Tamme, Javon Walker, Brandon Lloyd, Isaiah McKenzie. There's multiple Broncos that have wore this number and have been pretty good.
Yeah. Sorry, Joey. I didn't mean to blow up your spot on the first one. I know my Troy Fumagalli.
Yeah,
Didn't he have 8 fingers? I forget if it was 9 or 8.
Guy, huh?
I thought he was a solid blocking tight end. I thought he was my original Eric Sauber. I was like, hey, this guy can block. He's
You guys are
decent.
ridiculous. Just the most ridiculous. I almost forgot how to.
Bree hates the 8-toed or 8-fingered.
Is it 8 toes or 8 fingers?
Fingers.
8 toes is a little weird.
I
for
think
me,
he
but,
had
like,
all. I think he was good on toes, but he was short a few fingers.
Okay, if you had to lose a finger, which one would you be okay with losing? Off either hand.
I think you go ring.
Ring finger?
No, you're out of your control. Well, yes, actually, yes. Ring finger is correct.
Yeah.
It's the only good answer, actually, matter of fact.
Yeah, you take out the ring and you still got like a good gripper.
No. Okay, maybe.
You'll be
I'm
walking
not
around
sure
like
yet.
a Teenage
I have
Mutant
to
Ninja
think about
Turtle.
this. I have to think about it.
Hey, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles don't have a ring finger, and they.
I mean, I
use
feel like I
weapons
would be
no
fine
problem.
without a pinky. That one really doesn't do anything, no?
See, I was going there too, but that one's on the end. I think cutting off one of the ones that sandwich everything would be a little tough. I think that
Zach,
would.
all that would happen is that your stronger one then would become the end finger.
It doesn't get stronger. Like, you want to be able to like grip.
No, this
things.
one
Yeah,
is,
I don't know.
This one's stronger than my pinky finger, no doubt about it.
I think you want to. I think you want a gap. You know, and the ring finger's already on the same tendon as your middle finger. Those two feel a little redundant.
You only get one finger on your hand. Which one would you keep?
The thumb, so I can hitchhike.
We're out of here. Everybody tell
I mean, there was a bad answer there. Anyway, everyone, please follow me at JR Drafts. Follow my writing at Mile High Sports. Check out Frankie and I every single Thursday exclusively to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube channel, Facebook channel, everything like that. Please go over there and give us a follow. Zach, Bree, and I are posting a bunch of clips on the YouTube. You know, so if you can't catch the full podcast, there's going to be a bunch of clips on there. We're going to get grinding on that. I'm going to start clipping some stuff up right after this. But yeah, again, everyone, follow me at JR Drafts. Find all my work at Mile High Sports. Where can they find your guys' amazing work?
Yeah. Zach_Seegers on Twitter, milehighsports.com. I've got all the Buffs articles there. I'm working on a big roster review now. It's going good. And yeah, that's that. That's all I've got going on, Bree.
I don't even feel like I covered anything anymore. I haven't been talking whatsoever for the past week. But if you want, you can go and follow me on Twitter, Bree Maestas 303. And then you're gonna want to catch me every single Monday with the Fan Cave from Mile High Sports Radio. And then I'm back here for Let's Talk Broncos. Promise not to disappear on you guys again here soon. But that's it for us tonight. We'll see you again here shortly. And thanks for all your questions. We really enjoyed talking to you, Broncos country. Have a good night. We'll see you soon.
Knees, fingers, knees, and toes.